Hi, I thought I'd give you a bit of an insight today into blue pens. I really love them. I use them a lot, but you do need to be aware of a few things. The packets that they come in these days tend not to have instructions on them. So I think most of us know a blue pen is a wash away pen. It's water soluble. But it doesn't mean that just a fine spritz of water is going to get rid of it. So I use a blue pen a lot on fabrics. It shows up on white. It shows also up on darker fabrics. There's very few that it doesn't show easily on, so it's good from that point of view. It doesn't brush off like some of the chalks do, so you can keep it on the quilt for a bit longer, especially if you're using a frame and you're rolling backwards and forwards. Those lines don't disappear. What you do need to know, and it is very important, you cannot leave this pen on your quilt for a long period of time, because it will set and then it will be permanent. It will not come out. If you leave it for a long time, it will go brown, like as in a couple of months, it will go brown. If you leave it in heat, it will also set. So you cannot iron if you have blue pen on your quilt top. You cannot iron over those marks. Cannot iron over those marks. And don't leave it in, say, an area of your studio if the sun is coming in and it's very hot. Again, potentially it could set it. All right. So you can use it perfectly safely, although I would also say test. How many of us actually test our marking pens on the fabrics before we use them? I think I can also say I'm pretty much guilty of. I just presume that it's going to work and that it's going to come out. But just if it's a very special project, be careful, be cautious, and test on your fabrics. I have once had an issue on a red, like not red, a very bright pink fabric. So it had red dye in it, and it didn't come out. So yes, test. It's like any marking method. You do need to test it and be sure that it'll come out. Okay, so our advice on the blue pens, or not our advice, but the way that you're supposed to use them is, this is water soluble, so you need to soak your quilt in water to truly and completely neutralize the ink. If you use a spray bottle and you spritz it, you tend to get the ink out of the top of the quilt, but with the moisture it wicks into your batting and it can then later come up in other areas. It's not fully neutralized, and then in time, you know, later down the line, you're going to have an issue that you've got marks on your quilt that you can't get out. So we recommend you fill the bath with water if it's a big quilt, or the sink if it's not so big. Cold, plain water. No heat, no soap to start with. Put your quilt in there and fully submerge it. Make sure it's completely wet and leave it for at least 5 minutes. Then you can take that water out. You can then from then on you can wash it normally. So then you can use your light detergent and your sort of warm water. But no heat, no detergent in the beginning, otherwise you're going to set it. So if you put your finished quilt with marking pen directly in the washing machine with soap, you take it out of there and you put it into the tumble dryer, then you will have done a double whammy. You will have fixed the pen with the soap and with the heat of the dryer. So just be really careful. You've put all that effort into making your quilt, and then you're going to have lines on it that won't later come out unless you handle it correctly. So what's the secret again? Cold, plain water. Soak the quilt. Don't just spray it. If you find that you have some residual where it doesn't come out nicely, then you can use baking soda. So put like a half a cup of baking soda into a liter of water, or into the bath of water, and mix it in and let your quilt soak in that. It's not going to damage the quilt, but it should remove that blue pen. You can use that mixture also to spot treat areas, so that you don't use the whole quilt. But again, I would highly recommend that you soak the quilt so that every part of it of that ink has been neutralized, and that it hasn't pulled down into your batting to give you a horrible surprise later on. Okay, so they are really great tools, but be careful that you use them in the correct way. Happy quilting!